Welcome to the Mental Advantage Podcast. Whether you're an athlete trying to perform at your best when it counts the most, a coach or business leader trying to get more out of your team, or someone looking for more personal growth, this is the place for you. This podcast is your map to guide you to the right mindset, systems, and strategies you need to become the best version of yourself. And now, here's John Cullen and Brandon Allen.
All right, welcome in. We've got a great one for you tonight. We have Kirk Cabana, who's the founder of Pursuit4Purpose and an assistant baseball coach at Carolina University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And Brandon, the listeners, I think, will be amazed at this story. I mean, we've had plenty of guests on here that have had really interesting stories, and some have overcome a lot of obstacles and that type of thing. But this is one of those that's like right from that movie, The Rookie, that was on where the guys, older and already kind of started life and decides, you know what, maybe I'll just go back and see what this college thing's. I'll give that one more try.
Well, for sure. It's a crazy story, but I think what the listeners are going to hear is a young man. He's still young. I mean, certainly younger than you and I. If we want to go by who's the oldest here, I mean, we can leave that one alone, I guess.
But it's a different conversation.
That's a totally different conversation. But the thing that I think the listeners are going to hear is a guy that in all intents and purposes bucks the trend in terms of, you think, life is going to go this one way. You're an athlete or whatever, and you're going to leave high school and you're going to go do this and you're going to do that. And through the adversity that he has seen and faced, he found his passion. And I think what I really enjoy about this conversation is he's embraced the uniqueness of his story, but he absolutely believes he's exactly where he's supposed to be. And I got to tell the listeners, I believe he's exactly where he's supposed to be too. I mean, after you hear the story and kind of what he's doing and the way he's pouring into people, Kirk he's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. So get your pen and paper ready. Here's Kirk Cabana. Well, Brandon, we are really blessed to have this next guest with us tonight. Kirk Cabana is somebody that I actually found through Instagram. It's one of those things that I find that in the mental performance world, you kind of tend to be swimming in the same circles or pools. Can you swim in circles?
Well,
I guess if there's water in it, right?
What you're swimming in is the algorithm, right? So,
Yes.
So the mental advantage and all the stuff that social media has now, I don't know if you're swimming in the same pool. I don't know if you want to, but for sure it's in the same algorithm.
Yeah. So that's how I found him. That's a good thing. But so Kirk is the founder of Pursuit4Purpose, a website geared towards athletes. And he's going to talk a little bit about that. And he's also the assistant baseball coach at Carolina University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So Kirk, we are really happy to have you on the show with us tonight.
Oh, guys, blessed and honored is an understatement. Really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to just be able to share in some good thoughts and sharing some positivity and sharing some growth for anybody that it can help. Because I always just try to take the mindset of, hey, just if it can help one person, then everything was worth it.
Absolutely. Well, man, you have such a really cool story, and it's something that I can't wait for our listeners to hear. Tell us, if you would. I know you grew up in the California area. I guess that's where you're originally from. Maybe just take a few minutes here, just kind of take us back to like how you came over to the East Coast, what maybe got you started coaching to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot to unpack, and I'll try to do my best for your listeners as well, too, to be able to not go too far back from birth or anything like that. But in all honesty, this all got started a couple of years ago when I just realized that, man, it is time for a change. I was tired of getting in my own way. And although I was doing great in my life financially and moving forward with a good career and not getting in any trouble, I wasn't fulfilled. And look, I respect and appreciate the career that I still have an opportunity to work for now, but I just don't have to do all the same stuff. I didn't want my life to be defined by killing bugs. So I knew there was a little bit more that I had in store and a lot more that I was supposed to give. And really that stems from knowing that I wasted an awesome athletic opportunity when I was 18 years old to go to the East Coast, weirdly enough. So North Carolina's always wanted me for some reason, but signed, sealed, and delivered as a football player, a kicker, so kind of a football player. But had a D1 scholarship to North Carolina A&T, signed, sealed, delivered, everything done. All I had to do was come back and finish school. Self-sabotage. Stopped going to classes, started hanging out with friends, started making every excuse in the book for whose fault it was except my own. And the reality was, at that personal time in my life, I hadn't faced much adversity. I hadn't had to overcome anything. And faced with that first test, I ran. I ran for myself and hid in plain sight for quite some time. And really, the biggest change came from when I had my son. And I knew if I was ever going to ask that young man to do anything, I had to try to do it right first. And so I decided, had the great idea to go back to school. Commonplace. It's a natural story, but hey, 30 years old, let's try to go back and play baseball this time.
That's amazing.
No idea how my wife let me pull this one off. Young son, I'm fat, out of shape, no practice. I hadn't played baseball in 15 years, but it was always my love. I grew up with baseball just being a part of who I was, playing in the front yard by myself, having a full old game. Just baseball is what I grew up with all of my athletic ability. I kind of got into football on accident because I was in a boys club that I wasn't supposed to be in. I didn't have the size as a football player, but a kicker and a soccer player. I found myself into it and I started being good. And it was just fun to be a part of that thing as well, too. But I in going back to junior college and trying to play baseball, honestly, the goal was where I'm at. Yes. But I didn't care about that. I just couldn't have any more what ifs in my life.
Right.
I needed to give myself that opportunity, that chance to be able to say, you know what, I tried. And if I failed my way. But I got out there and I found myself. I found all the reason why I was supposed to be taking step 1, step 2, step 3, and baseball is built upon that, mentality these days where it's just a sport of failure. And I knew that if I did something every single day, it wasn't about where I was right then. It's where could I be at the end of that year, get to where I needed to go. And I wasn't looking to try to be a stud. I just wanted to be the 25th man. I just wanted to make the team. And on that day and the first day and the bleachers and 70 guys around me, and the coach says, I'm not going to cut anybody. You're going to cut yourself.
You're like, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Really, yes, I got it. I know how much I left on the table at 18. I got these
That's
guys.
right. Yeah.
And that was a part of the mentality. I knew I could outwork 18-year-olds. And it took the life experiences of doing what it was, but I just loved being able to serve in that positive role of, hey, I got a wife, a kid, full-time job. I go to school full-time. I get good grades now, show up to the weight room on time, I'm first to practice and last to leave. Like, hey, what's your excuse why you can't do what we need to do here? And again, it just kept feeding the mentality of knowing I was in the right place, having my teammates have to come up to me and say, Kirk, I can't quit because you won't quit. I can't let the old guy be the guy that outlasts me. And so that just kept pushing me farther and farther. And the reality is, you can't make changes unless you make changes. And I finally got the head right. I finally started feeding myself with personal development, with, Zig Ziglar is a great mentor of mine, and most of my mentors are passed away. But at this point, Automobile University is something I took to heart. I just tried to take in as much information as I can that could help feed me and move me in the right direction. And I was still leaving stuff on the table. I'm still leaving stuff on the table to this day, which is that much more fun of knowing that, hey, I've got more in store and more to give. And it led to some fun opportunities to where I ended up earning a scholarship to Carolina University to play baseball for a year, and then ended up getting told right before the next season was going to start, "Hey, Kirk, job's done. You've done your part. Go ahead and join the coaching staff. I need you more on this side than I do on the field." And it hurts the ego to be told you got to hang up your cleats a little bit. But you know what? It was easy to go away because I knew that's what the point was. That was the role all along, was to get involved as a coach in sports, knowing that at the end of the day, if I could find a way to change my life to be able to make my income derivative of sports, that is not work, that is joy, 100%. And in that time now, from being on the coaching staff as a volunteer, I've been promoted to being a full-time assistant on the staff. And guys, I was naive to think that I was going to be where I was. I believed it, but learning about this game and learning how many people make a big fat zero, ooh, man, I ain't giving this back.
Yeah. So I'm really interested. So at the age of 30, what did you find to be the most challenging piece? Because you, to your point, you've got all these responsibilities. You've got, from a physical standpoint, recovery is different. I mean, I'm almost 50. I know what it feels like. Like it is not the same. You pull something, you do something. The recovery is not the same. So what was the more difficult part? The physical aspect? Because it sounds like your head was exactly where it needed to be. Mm-hmm. But how did you juggle the physical and the mental challenges of going out and trying to make a team at the age of 30?
Well, that's a great question. And quite honestly, you're 100% right. My body was falling apart left and right, and I needed that physical change though for myself as well. As I had said, I was out of shape, and that was one of the best transformations about it, was who I got to become, and even started to become in that process of shifting myself, losing some weight, getting in shape, feeling better. But all at the same time, let me tell you this, I tore my hamstring on day 2. But on day 2, I can't be like, "Hey, coach, can I have some time off? The 30-year-old guy hurt himself. How about you go home, buddy? And get on out of here." So I didn't tell anything about anything to anybody. I just kept going and knowing that, all right, this might be the last time I ever run right here. Let's go. And eventually, after I'd put in some work that they could tell I was a hard worker and was willing to do what needed to be done, I just lifted up my shorts and was like, "Hey, can this black and blue hamstring take a week off?" And so I took a week off of an 8-week injury, and then just kept trying to come back too fast. My hamstrings are made out of scar tissue at this point for sure. So it's fun. I have enjoyed it, but you're absolutely right. It was the physical toll that was the toughest part, but it was the physical toll that was the biggest reward, pushing myself to my limits and going beyond them, and knowing that if I could do this, then the school's the easy part. I was 100% trying to take the disciplines that I was learning on the field back into the other important areas of my life.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, you had as Brandon pointed out, such a great mindset to the whole thing, because it came from a place of servant leadership. You mentioned Zig Ziglar, and one of the quotes that you have on your website that struck my attention, because I've always liked this quote myself, it's a Zig Ziglar quote of, "You can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want." And it reminded me, I heard recently, and I don't know where I saw the video clip. It was a speaker, and I wouldn't even want to guess a name because I'd probably get it wrong. And not that the person's like going to be dialed in and get upset with me, but just in case they are. But they were talking about praying, and the guy was challenging the audience, and he said, "How do you pray? Do you pray to be blessed, or do you pray to be a blessing? Because if you pray to be a blessing, then you're something you can do all the time. You can be a blessing to somebody at the store. You can be a blessing to somebody on the street. Everybody you meet, you have an opportunity to impact, versus just being blessed is just you asking somebody to bless you." And so I think that when I read your quote, it made me immediately think about that video, because I love when coaches, and it's no wonder after listening to your story that you became a coach, because I love when coaches come at it from that servant leadership mindset. It's that really, what can I do for you as a player? I'm going to meet you where you are. I'm going to help you develop. Those are the best coaches. I mean, was that always there for you? Is that why you decided you wanted to get into coaching?
you hit the nail on the head, right on it. And I wanted to be able to tell the guys, look, I've been where you're at. I was in the trenches with you, and being able to just relate as much as I can. And that's why at this point in, where things are at, I feel like my players can connect with me a lot, because they know that I'm not far removed from doing exactly what I'm asking them to do. And it speaks for itself for what they know that I'm still doing for them now. And, I was naive to think that I can change a program or help grow a program when I came over here as a player. And then now getting this opportunity on the coaching staff to really see what impact I can have to make sure that, hey, I'm helping provide them the experience that I want. Because if I'm not having fun, how are they going to have fun? I want them to feel like they're proud of the logo that they're putting on their chest as we're working towards building everything for ourselves as a university. And you're just so right about wanting to play that servant leader role. And that's where I've fortunately found even more servant leadership as my faith in Christ and everything has fully been developed and started growing on that walk. Because again, I've had an abundance of faith on this process and on this journey to take my steps towards something that was so blind. And, we joked a little bit earlier, but look, I understand these kids' dreams and aspirations, and I'm going to be the farthest person to try to tell them that they can't get where they want to go, because even at 30 years old, body broken down, not talented enough, the thoughts still pass through your head. I'm going to be an MLB guy. I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to do it. But I had to laugh at myself at that same time and pluck that thought out and say, that's not the mission, man. But I get it. You're working hard and you want to believe that your hard work will take you to the highest levels of your hard work. But for me, ultimately it's getting towards, earning an opportunity someday to be able to be a head coach. But then with the other ventures that have continued going on, I've found the ways that I've been called to make a bigger difference than just even on the baseball field, and in a difference of those who I might not ever even get a chance to meet.
So what I hear, Kirk, is something that it does my heart well, because you like you said, you're young, you've never faced adversity, you kind of turn, and you gain experience, right? And then I think it's unique that God always kind of seems to put us back into a spot again to just see, hey, did you learn that lesson? Right? Because if you didn't, I can bring you back here at some point, right? It's that spiral staircase. And you're never the same person when you get back to that spot. And that spot's never really the same spot, but the test is the same. But what I love to hear is the amount of gratitude that you have, right? I mean, gratitude is such a huge thing for mindset. And to hear that, hey, I'm going to go, it's worth me fighting for another opportunity. It's worth me doing these things, but pouring back into people the way that John said. Can you speak a little bit as to maybe, your daily practice or habits as it pertains to gratitude? Or is it just something that you have in you because of your life experience?
Brandon, that's solid, because really life, even in your advancements, is still a vicious cycle. You get away from the things that got you to where you wanted to go at times, and then you have to refine yourself to take that next step. And I could tell you, without it sounding dumb, at a certain point, I got tired of my own story. That wasn't my last part. Getting to this point, it was, you get to where you set your goal, and then you get there, and you look to see how much farther you can see. And going back to more gratitude, though, that was in those beginning times, that was everything. I had too many people in my life take opportunities to give me the chances to even try to take on this thing, try to guide me in the right direction, but also tell you, hey, don't be mad at yourself if it doesn't work out. And it's like, well, you just don't know. You don't know who I am and what's been placed on my heart. But again, the gratitude for my wife for being willing to let me be able to explore these options for ourselves and for our family, because I knew just as a person, hey, this is a recipe for disaster. Just as far as how long can you intentionally live an unfulfilled life, regardless of what income is coming in or what direction you might be able to take something, if it doesn't give you something out of it. And now, like I had said, I'm working towards these different paths, but still with that same company, with such a more positive and gratitude-based mindset of doing it, because now it is not what I'm identified by. It is just something else that I get to do. And then even in the identity of being a coach, that's not what I'm identified as. It's just something I get to do. I get to serve at this point in my life, and whatever vehicles get placed on my heart to serve through is what I get a chance to give back to. So as far as a little bit of a routine, it was just trying to feed myself as much good books and good audio as I could, but telling you into where it stops. I got to where I got, and then I stopped with the audio development. I stopped with the reading every day, and I was still moving forward, but it was almost like I was satisfied with the change. And then there was only so long that I could be satisfied with that change before I knew you're leaving stuff on the table again. There's more to be done. There's nothing to be comfortable about. You've made these changes, but this isn't your permanent form. There's more to grow. There's more to give. And that's exactly where kind of the next venture has started with myself of Pursuit for Purpose, as I just knew I have zero time to be able to think about doing something like this. But this was placed on my heart by somebody a little bit higher than myself. And this one said, Kirk, get out of the way, and let this happen through you.
Kirk, something I want our listeners to understand about, and we've talked about this a lot, is this idea of don't make that thing you do your identity. Don't make that something that you're only limiting yourself to, because when you do that, the other thing about creating an identity based on your profession or something you're currently doing is that's where expectations come into play. And so sometimes that's when, we start to get frustrated because we're not living up to those expectations. But one of the other things that I think our listeners can really take from your story is, and I'm going to go back to an episode we did with a good friend of ours, Scott Foxhall, who is the pitching coach at Mississippi State and is a former teammate of Brandon and I at the College of Charleston. And Fox, when we had him on the show, he used a line that I absolutely love. And he said, the future is perfect. The future is perfect. And the great thing about this is, when no matter what you had happen in the past, whether you had that missed opportunity when you're 18 years old, whatever the case may be, or if you're not in a profession or doing a job or reaching the maximum potential you feel like you can do in your life, guess what? The future's perfect. Like that has no bearing on what's going to happen in the future. And so for you kind of framed what your goal is in life. And now all of a sudden, because it comes from a more honest and open place, as far as one of that, how can I help? How can I serve others? How can I be a blessing? Now, all of a sudden you create this, Pursuit for Purpose website. So talk to us a little bit about that venture and maybe how that got started and what you're trying to accomplish with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to speak a little bit about it, because this is a driving force behind all of the different doors I'm trying to knock on in life at this point, where I just genuinely believe that with what I'm trying to be a part of building is just a community of athletes and coaches that are working together to build themselves as people, first and foremost. I truly believe, if you take care of the person, the sport has no choice but to come along. And again, you'd heard me discuss that, if I'm trying to help athletes understand that if we are not taking the simple disciplines that we learn in our sport and take them back into our spiritual life, our nutrition, our physical life, our family life, your education, then we're completely missing the point of why we're growing through these problems. It's to be able to complete the person as a whole. And at the end of the day, look, I encourage people to have the loftiest of goals and the loftiest of aspirations, but the destination is not the important part. It is who you get to become in the process of obtaining those goals, which is way more important than anything else. And look, we're not all going to be drafted by the Yankees, but we are all going to be drafted in life. And right now we should be using this opportunity to build our stock as people, to be able to put yourself and your best foot forward. So, this is a little off the topic, but the aspect is, nobody needs an internship. Your sport is your internship. If you buy into that for 4 years and you embrace your college that you've chosen, your team that you get to be a part of, you have the opportunity to walk away from that place with every letter of recommendation that you could ever ask for. But we don't take advantage of the vehicles that we're within. And baseball, in my particular case, was a vehicle to deliver me to where I was supposed to be getting my education, because I needed that sense of accountability for myself to be able to know that there was something to stick with. So Pursuit for Purpose came to life with just knowing that people need to be grown a little bit more in the basic foundations and principles that can lead them to where they want to go. Because there's just no way that if you're feeding yourself with that right stuff, practicing the simple disciplines and building character, that you're not going to then turn around and give the most of yourself and the thing that you do care the most about within your sport. And whether or not your gifts and talents are good enough to get you to the highest levels, that's for a determining factor to be made by somebody else that gave you those gifts. But you better know that regardless of where that takes you, that hard work was still going to take you to right where you were supposed to land. So I'm just trying to build a community of individuals that understand that other people are going through the same dang problems that they are. It's got some mental health wrapped into it. It's got goal setting wrapped into it. It's got different pillars of the basis of what it's going to take to be a successful human being and a contributor to society. That's really more of the important goal of the mission itself. And now it's continuing to evolve into where, I'm being guided that much more to go back to school and get my master's and do the different things that's going on, and just trying to help these guys avoid the same brick walls that I drove myself right into. And at the end of the day, the honest truth is it's not really going to do that much, because I'm not going to say anything brand new that hasn't been said by these past people that have already been through the processes, who have written the books, who have given the seminars, who've given us the information. I'm just trying to point them into the right direction of the information that helped me make a positive change in my life. Because for things to change, you have to change. And that's Jim Rohn for you. And he's another one that I just love the information that they're able to give. And John C. Maxwell, another one that's on the website, is if there's hope in the future, there's power in the present. But we have to be that much more intentional about our directions that we're heading for ourselves. And so when we're talking about setting these goals, it's just about having an intention for yourself of where you actually want to go. Too many of us are operating on autopilot right now and hoping that something is going to change. But unless you make those changes and commit to yourself, then we really have no opportunity to get to where we want to go.
So Kirk, I see on the site too, you've got a couple of Zoom calls and things like that. And you've got Alan Jaeger as who's a friend of the show for sure. And we talk about him a good bit. Has he gotten you into meditation and are you practicing that for the team and stuff like that?
Yeah, we actually are doing the meditation before practice for ourselves. And Alan has been an awesome just person in general. I can't say advocate or anything like that. He's just been a good human being to lift up somebody that is just trying to move in the right direction. And that's what has made me fall in love with the process that much more, is finding the good people of baseball and in sports. And yeah, I want to help all sports. My network just at this point happens to be baseball. So that's where it's going to start getting its organic growth from. But there's a lot of people who are willing to lift people up, not give handouts, but lift people up on their process of where they're trying to go. And, there's been some good voices that have lent themselves to people. And my ultimate goal for an external goal of Pursuit for Purpose is to create an actual mathematical 1% difference in the athletic community. And that is based upon there being about 8.8 million athletes between high school, college, and professional sports.
Wow.
And to make a 1% difference means I need to have a following of 75,000 people. Mm-hmm. And as a person that plays baseball, and we talk about 300 being a great batting average and out 7 out of 10 times, I'll take 99 out of 100 and know that with reaching that obtainable goal, that a 1% difference in any kind of community will change my life, my family's life, and my future family's life for time to come. But the reality is, within that number, there's monumental success at half of that, and half of that, and half of that, and whatever number you want to keep dividing it by. So you have to take care of the people that are right in front of your face first before you start getting into any major impacts like that. But that's the lofty external goal. But as I had told you before, who I get to become in the process of obtaining that goal is something that can't be measured.
So, Kirk, do you guys, with this website, do people sign up for it? How do you engage with them other than the Zoom calls and stuff? And the reason I asked the question is, I'm always curious when any coach is dealing with athletes, and maybe if not from your website, you can just answer this in general from your experiences at Carolina. But I'm curious if you are noticing any consistency as it relates to pain points or a void, something that is needed. I noticed that, you all had sheets, Jeremy Sheetinger on there talking about character, and you've had different ones, Brandon pointed out Alan Jaeger. But are you noticing, either as a coach or as somebody who's involved with Pursuit for Purpose, that there is a kind of certain themes that keep coming up as pain points?
That's interesting. I do think that there are some particular pain points, and that's the biggest pain point that I would say that I've probably identified is people's lack of belief. And it comes from the fact that people didn't believe in them before. So that's just where one of the bigger, hopefully, culture shifts of what gets to happen is it's a group of people that believe in other people's abilities to achieve what they're looking to do. And now that belief doesn't mean that, it's magically going to happen. No, it's going to work for it. But it's putting a bunch of people who have chips on their shoulder for whatever reason together to say, well, if that guy can do it, I can do it. And that's my biggest standpoint of where I'm trying to let guys know is, dude, if I could use college baseball as a vehicle to get my degree at 30 years old, buddy, you better not, back off when the roadblock comes. And that's just as a person, as a coach, and as somebody that's growing, I have a major soft spot for guys who have some checkered pasts, because, hey, if you're coming to me at 22, 23 and saying that you want to play college baseball for the first time, let's go. Right. You've got the perfect amount of time for yourself to be able to get things right. Don't wait 8 more years, because you're probably not going to end up with a wife that allows you to be able to make these crazy decisions that you end up doing. And, a lot of that was having to prove her right, that she was right to trust me in that process of doing it. And so there are, every person has a particular area or a pillar of growth that at some point was punched in the gut, where they either made a character mistake and then felt identified and attached to those past mistakes, or they'd lost hope, they'd lost faith, and they don't all understand that we are resilient creatures, that we can put ourselves through a monumental amount of punishment and still find our way onto the other side, as long as we're willing to identify that there is more to go, and that you don't have to be identified by the things that you've done, but you can be identified by what you become.
Yeah, I like a lot of what you just were talking about. And earlier you were talking about the lessons that sports teaches us. And I was thinking to myself, I wish that if I had gone back when I'm 30, I guarantee you I would have got a lot more out of the lessons from the game of baseball. Like, as much as it taught us then, I think it takes a little while for that to kind of be in there. I always say it's like going to baseball camp, it's sponge effect, right? It's like when you go to baseball camp as a kid, there's so much stuff being thrown at those kids for 3 days, 4 days, however long the camp lasts. And without fail, those kids get in the car and their parent who just spent $100 or whatever it was on the camp says, "What'd you learn at camp?" "Oh, nothing." And you're like, I guarantee you probably learned something. You just might not realize what you learned right now. But as you get a week, a month or so away from it, you're going to learn more. It's the same thing with that college experience. And so that's what I really love about not only you're going back to school and playing, but also the work you're doing with Pursuit for Purpose is you kind of, in a way, are a facilitator or a guide for a lot of these athletes, because there's lessons. It's almost like you have an opportunity to point out some of these lessons. Like you can say to those baseball players or your teammates, or even now as a coach to your players, is, "Hey guys, I don't know if you're noticing this lesson on the right, but here's what it's going to teach you." So that dealing with adversity, that overcoming that self-doubt, that dealing with, anger or frustration or whatever, like these are all things the game will teach you. But sometimes you need that coach or somebody like yourself with a website like that to be able to just kind of point them in the right direction.
Well, you going through a couple of those different attributes really reminded me that, one of the biggest things that can't be discounted is love. And I began to love myself again, and not a self-love that's, selfish. If anything, when you talk about being selfless, it's not that you don't think about yourself, you just think about yourself less. And I finally fell in love with my own journey, that this was where I was supposed to fall into. I put most of my wounds in my life have been self-inflicted, unfortunately. And it's, now been time to work and crawl out of those, but getting to then feel like it was just, meant to be is all that it can kind of be explained about that process. Is I can tell you right now, at 34 years old, these guys would not have a chance if I was on their team. Even as I was playing, I wasn't where I'm at mentally right now, where it's just the difference maker. And with self-development, personal development, mental growth, it's not an area you can force on anybody. They have to be ready to walk through those doors when it's their time. And many times we don't walk through those doors until we've had one closed, until we've been punished in some way because we didn't respect the values and disciplines and different things of what were there. We always just assumed that we would put it off until tomorrow, and then tomorrow catches up and it's like, I'm 30 years old. It's time to actually do something with my life. And that was just, of course I had thoughts at 22, 23, 24, 25, playing rec league softball, tearing it up on the field, and be like, oh, I got to go back to school. Asking my friends, oh, come on. Hey, you think I can make a college team right now? And let's wait 5 more years before I go and do it. But it's been an absolutely interesting process to be, to say the least, to be able to keep discovering that there's more in store. And even with Pursuit for Purpose, where things got going, it was one of those things that I brought the whole thing to life within, I believe it was 40-ish days, where we're talking LLCs, I just went for it. It got put on my heart, and I said, but I was told, get out of the way. You need to move on this thing and not wonder, hey, is somebody else doing something like this? Hey, no, because life in any career, there's more than enough success available for every person that chooses to do it, because we all have our unique ventures. And so as things have continued to develop with Pursuit for Purpose and doing these weekly live podcast Zoom meeting types of things, it's now growing that much more into where there's going to be life coaching services that are offered with a paired element of a personalized strength and conditioning, plan. And then hopefully pairing it with an app that's got some different stuff about, development and whatnot, to try to make things more of a package, because I do want to cater and help those high school age kids, young college kids, help them set themselves up as a separator of character as human beings that is going to make their baseball talents look that much more. Because you, as a coach, I want those guys. I want people first that I can get to grow. Granted, yes, I'm 5'9", there's not much I can do about my height, and somebody that's 6'4", 6'5" looks that much more attractive, but I will take a good foundational human being who's 5'9" over a 6'4" guy that has no direction or wasting their abilities and their talents
every day.
That's just me.
That's every,
it's
every
go
day.
ahead, Brandon.
I was going to say, I think that's every coach, and it's every day. And I think the unique position that you have is now that you're on both, you've been on both sides. You were playing just a year ago, 2 years ago, and now to be on the other side, what you needed to do to be successful as a player. And now you have an opportunity to go recruit the kids that show those characteristics and just the character period that you need and that you're looking for, and foundationally are attractive to coaches and to just people in general in life. So I love the fact that you're going to give back to those kids, and I can see where that would be wildly successful.
And building Carolina University's baseball program is 100% a testament to the young men that are going to get a chance to be here. We don't got the bells and whistles. We're not, our program when I came here was only 2 years old. And that's the decision why I made the decision to come across the country was I wanted to be a part of building something. Now, weirdly enough, I had a lot of opportunities all around the country because I put myself out there. I emailed everybody and I emailed people without video, but just the idea of like, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. I had one D2 coach tell me like you could have no arms, no legs, and kick the ball around. If you bring that leadership over here, I'll have a spot for you. But granted, the reasoning that I ended up choosing Carolina University was just being a part of the ground floor of building something. I knew that there was going to be tremendous value in my future for getting to see something grown from the ground up. And because who knows if that's how I get my first coaching job? Is it a start of a program? Is it growing something? So that's been the best part of recruiting these young men that I get a chance to be with and have here, because look, there's guys here at our school that have no business being here talent wise. They definitely have the talent to be able to play at higher level programs, but they wanted to be a part of building something. They wanted to be a part of getting to be the reason that we set the culture, foundation, and direction and intentional, guidance of where we want to take a program, so that in 10 years, when they got it a little bit easier, we get to look back and say, we went first. Somebody had to go first to be able to build it and give you what you're working for. And there's just something powerful in that not many people can really say that they get that opportunity to be a part of organically growing and working and sowing the seed that it's going to take to reap the benefits of the work that you're going to put in, because that's the life lesson in that one. You're going to take that with you to where you continue to go and know that I can start a business. I can start at a entry level position and work myself up into upper management if I do it the right way and build myself as a person. And, it's not, I'm not going to use any name as a bad thing, but like I said, as far as the internship aspect of where these kids can go building their stock as people, you get to decide where you end up right out of school. Are you going to start with a good network and a relationship with somebody that gives you a better paying job? Or are you going to start working in a field that has nothing to do with the degree that you did? And it's because you probably didn't put too much focus into the intentional other areas of your life as much as you did with just hoping that I'm going to get drafted and play baseball.
And I like the idea that those players at Carolina can now, from a foundational standpoint, they can leave a legacy. They can start to build a culture. I work with a college softball team, and one of the things I told those captains and the seniors the first year I started working with them is, years from now, whether you win a conference championship or not, or whether you had the most wins in school history in any particular season, those things are nice. But what people will really remember is what kind of impact you had on it, right? Like what kind of impact you had on the program? Did you help build the culture? Did you help define how people are going to look at a player from, Carolina University? Brandon and I, went to a college that when we were at the College of Charleston, they had not, it was still a young program when we went there. And so that's one of the things we talk about all the time as alums from that university is being able to say, you know what, this is a really cool thing when you look back on it and say, man, when I watch them and the facility that they play in now, and, they made it to a super regional one year, and, we're all kind of fired up about that because you think about where we were, and we had success. Don't get me wrong. We weren't like the cupcake just because we were a young program. We had some big wins, and we played a really tough schedule. But the reality of it is we look back with a lot more fondness over the fact that we were able to build something or help contribite to that. So that's
awesome.
Thing.
That's awesome. And I feel like this year is a big identification year for us as a program. The first year coming here to school without having been here, they went 2-41. And then when I got here, it rains a lot in North Carolina. I didn't know that as much as I did coming from California. But my year playing, I believe we went 9-24. So, made some growth on things, but, a lot of games canceled to weather. And then the next year is when I joined the coaching staff, and that's COVID year. And honestly, The craziest part of my journey is that was supposed to be my senior season. Because of all this crazy stuff, I technically would still have eligibility right now and playing this year if my coach hadn't told me your job is done.
Right.
So I'd still be out there playing and doing all this stuff, but I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And in that year, we went 6-9 before they cut down the season. And last year, we ended up going for the whole year. I think it was 17-17, but we ended up making the postseason and ended up getting a bid to our association's World Series. Nice. And ended up making the Final Four for ourselves out there. Made it out of pool play, and the only two teams that we lost to were the two teams that played in the final. The number one seed and the team that won it. So it was hey. Not to say success too fast or anything, but the challenge now is to build on everything that we did. And we've continued bringing in some good people that are going to continue taking us there. So we're going to have, as a program, we're going to have our best year that we've had and get over the 500 mark and get some places. But even in that, there is no championship or bust mentality. You can't have that going into a program that you're being a part of building, because there's still so much growth that has to happen just as far as personal accountability and expectation. And what I'm looking forward to seeing within our group as we continue getting into an element where we expect success is our group enjoying the process that much more of seeing their teammates succeed. Coach Patrick Murphy from the University of Alabama softball team has mudita as one of the big things that they talk about. And that's being able to find vicarious joy in others' success. And I know for us as a program, when our guys can take on that mentality that somebody else's success does not mean less success for them, then that's when we'll make our transformation into heading into the right championship direction, because we're going to win a lot of games, but I think it's really tough to win the big games when you don't have a completely unified front on what you guys are building together.
They couldn't have a better person in the organization, because I hear what you just said, and it sounds like the program is a direct reflection of where you have been up to this point. So it doesn't surprise me one bit that the Lord has put you where He's put you when He's put you there, because you are doing and they are reaping the benefit of everything that you have gone through so far. So I applaud you for that.
I appreciate that, and the Lord has worked in a lot more mysterious ways than just through me. There's a lot of different vehicles that He's working through that have put us all together in the same place at the same time, and at this little school in the small metropolitan city that we get to build something together. I'm extremely beyond thankful for my head coach, who allows me to spread my wings a little bit wider than I'm probably supposed to spread them as an assistant coach. But, it's been fun to watch him grow. It's been fun to see him go on this Pursuit for Purpose journey with me as a listener. And, I have to tell him, thank you for being on the call today. And he's like, Kirk, I'm not on there for you. It's at the first time, maybe, but at this point, I'm on there for me. And, again, like I said, you can't force it down anybody's throat that doesn't want it, but it's very awesome to see the players that are on the team that have bought into what's going on with that and are continuing to let themselves see the growth and rewards of where they can get as people.
Absolutely. So, Kirk, last question, and then I want you to share with the listeners how they can find your content on social media and all that good stuff. And this is just more of a curiosity question. What did you learn about yourself through all of this? I mean, what did you, as you look back on, you made a decision to get back into college. You did all of that. You did the coursework. You did the athletics piece of it. What did you learn? Without any
intention of sounding arrogant, I've learned that I'm a winner. I've learned that I'm a lifelong learner, and above all else, that I'm a competitor. And that is really what has continued to drive a lot of these different points home. And it goes back to, as well, just a simple statement of gratitude. Being very thankful for my own journey, thankful for the people that have come before me, and apologize. Kind of starting to well up a little bit as I even just think about it. But I owe a lot to a lot more people than myself, and I owe it to them to be who I was put on this earth to be. That's awesome. Well, man, how can people learn more about Pursuit for Purpose, and how can they get in touch with you on social media? Absolutely. Well, I've got all the different social medias at this point, and the website is www.pursuit4purpose.com. That's the number 4 in there for Pursuit for Purpose. If you looked on Twitter, Instagram, you'll be able to find it, Facebook, any of those things. We've got our weekly content to date in the weekly videos tabs on the website. And there will be continued services that'll be being offered here in the next couple of months towards individualized, personalized coaching. But the community, the weekly Zooms, Twitter Spaces, whatever direction it continues to head, that'll always stay free, because that'll be what we can offer as a community for us to come together, but also then giving those people that want the individualized opportunity to grow a more personalized relationship to be able to move forward on that walk together as well. So I definitely appreciate the opportunity to be able to share anything about what's going on with that, because again, yes, there's a lofty goal of making a 1% difference, but starting even with making a 0.1% difference and affecting one human being makes me feel like it was always all worth it. That's awesome. Well, God bless you, man. Zig Ziglar would be very proud of you. Absolutely. I can say that, because you're definitely working to help others, and it shows, and you have a passion for it. And you've definitely found your purpose. And I think once somebody finds their purpose and grabs onto it, I mean, especially with the attitude you have, watch out. So thanks for joining us. We really hope that you guys get things going the right direction at Carolina. I know you guys will, and we'll be pulling for you. Absolutely. Appreciate you guys having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor, and wish you guys all the luck with everything that you continue to pour yourselves into. Thanks, Kirk.
Want to provide feedback or stay up to date with the show? Visit our Instagram page at Mental Advantage Podcast, or you can send us an email at podcast@mentaladvantage.net. To have John Cullen work with you or your team, please write to him at john.cullen@mentaladvantage.net. Thanks for listening to today's episode.